Between 800 and 1000 CE, some of the most sophisticated cities on Earth went silent. Monuments abandoned, populations gone. For over a century, this was archaeology's greatest vanishing act. Then between 2022 and 2024, ancient DNA from more than 200 individuals across 30 sites revealed something no one expected. The Maya didn't vanish. And who they really were changes everything about why their world supposedly collapsed. Textbooks once displayed the Maya as a vanished empire, an ancient world of towering pyramids and jungle-choked plazas emptied overnight. Early explorers wandered through these ruins in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, sketching toppled monuments and speculating about a people who, by all appearances, had abandoned their cities in a single catastrophic collapse. The story was simple and dramatic. Between 800 and 1000 CE, a mighty civilization rose too high, then fell, leaving only silent stones behind. This narrative took root in the popular imagination. Generations of school children learned about the Maya through grainy illustrations of deserted temples and solemn pronouncements about hubris and downfall. Colonial chroniclers like Diego de Landa and Bernal Diaz del Castillo described the Maya with a sense of moral judgment, casting their rituals and beliefs as evidence of inevitable decline. Early archaeologists, working with limited evidence and a Eurocentric lens, saw the collapse as a cautionary tale, a once great people undone by their own excesses or by the wrath of nature. Over time, these assumptions hardened into dogma. The Maya became a single, monolithic civilization, their disappearance a mystery to be solved. The image of a lost people, swallowed by the jungle, overshadowed the complexities of their world. The ruins stood as both evidence and warning, their empty plazas fueling centuries of speculation about what went wrong. Yet beneath these familiar stories, cracks began to show. The uniform collapse, the idea of a single Maya people, the notion that their descendants vanished, all rested on interpretations shaped more by outsider imagination than by the evidence left behind. The questions lingered: were the Maya truly one people? Did they really vanish? And if not, what story do the stones and now their DNA actually tell? In 2022, a wave of ancient DNA studies swept across the Maya world, collecting genetic material from more than 200 individuals at over 30 archaeological sites. These samples came from elite tombs in the Yucatan, cave burials in the Guatemalan highlands, rock shelters in Belize, and royal graves in Honduras. International teams worked in clean labs, extracting DNA from bones and teeth that had rested in the ground for centuries. Their goal was simple: map the hidden threads of ancestry that connected or divided the people we call Maya. The results defied every textbook model. Instead of a single, unified genetic signature, the data revealed 4 distinct ancestry clusters. The largest was a Mesoamerican core, found in every region and still present in modern Maya-speaking communities. But layered within this core were signals that told a more tangled story. One cluster showed unmistakable ties to ancient populations in South America, especially those linked to Chibchan speakers from Colombia and Costa Rica. This South American signal first appeared in Belize rock shelters nearly 5,600 years ago, then spread northward, coinciding with the rise of maize farming, long before the first Maya cities. A second, smaller cluster carried the imprint of Caribbean hunter-gatherers, strongest in coastal sites along the Yucatan and Belize. A third, subtler component surfaced only in a handful of northern lowland samples, hinting at a local lineage not yet matched in any reference database. Even neighboring cities like Tikal and Calakmul, just 80 kilometers apart, showed measurable differences in their ancestry profiles, 3 to 5% shifts that reflected centuries of local alliances, marriages, and trade. This genetic mosaic shattered the idea of the Maya as a monolithic people. Instead, the evidence pointed to a network of city-states, each with its own ancestral blend, each shaped by migrations, marriages, and the slow churn of history. For the first time, DNA offered hard proof that Maya identity was always more complex, more regional, and more resilient than the myths allowed. The sacred cenote at Chichen Itza once stood at the heart of a legend, a place where, according to early explorers and generations of textbooks, young women were offered to the gods. For decades, this image held fast, shaped by the biases of colonial chroniclers and the assumptions of early archaeologists who lacked the tools to look deeper. But in 2024, the largest ancient DNA study ever conducted on Maya sacrificial remains changed everything. Researchers extracted genetic material from over 100 individuals recovered from the cenote and its nearby Chultan chamber. Out of these, 64 yielded high-quality DNA. The results were startling. Every single one of these individuals was male. Most were between 3 and 6 years old. The so-called maiden sacrifice was, in fact, a ritual centered on elite boys. The DNA sexing protocol left no room for doubt. X and Y chromosome ratios confirmed the absence of females. This was not a random cross-section of the population, and it was not a fulfillment of European fantasies about lost princesses. Instead, what emerged was a picture of deliberate selection, repeated over centuries, and on a scale that no previous excavation had revealed. The story of the sacred cenote was never about maidens. It was about something far more complex and far more revealing of Maya society. Kinship coefficients from the sacred cenote study reveal a web of family ties among the sacrificed boys. Genetic analysis identified 9 first-degree relationships, siblings or parent-child pairs within the group. Most striking of all were 2 sets of identical twins, confirmed by nearly matching genomes. These twins, the first ever documented in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, were not isolated cases. Instead, their presence among the victims points to a system that valued kinship and perhaps even mythic symbolism in the selection process. Isotope data adds another layer. Collagen samples show elevated delta 15N values in several children, signaling a diet rich in animal protein, well above what was typical for the broader population. Strontium ratios match the local Yucatan plateau, but a subset of values hints at origins in elite residential zones. These chemical fingerprints, combined with the kinship clustering, suggest that the children were not chosen at random. They came from privileged households, their diets and upbringing marked by status and access. The deliberate inclusion of twin pairs and close relatives, alongside evidence of elite provisioning, speaks to a sacrificial logic rooted in both social hierarchy and ritual narrative. The story unfolding from these bones is not one of indiscriminate violence, but of structured, lineage-based offerings, echoing the hero twins of the Popol Vuh, whose mythic journey shaped Maya cosmology for centuries. Twin boys, bound by blood and chosen lineage, echo a story older than the stones of Chichen Itza. Their presence among the cenote offerings calls back to the Popol Vuh, where Hunahpu and Xbalanque, the hero twins, descend into the underworld, outwit the lords of Xibalba, and sacrifice themselves for the renewal of the world. Ancient DNA makes this myth tangible, revealing not just twins but a pattern: elite children, often siblings, selected generation after generation. These were not random victims, but living embodiments of Maya cosmology, offered in rituals that mirrored the trials and transformations of the hero twins. Indigenous scholars point to this deliberate reenactment, seeing the cenote not as a place of horror, but as a sacred stage where myth and reality met. Through these children, the Maya enacted a cosmic drama, binding their own families to the cycles of creation, sacrifice, and rebirth that shaped their universe. The bones, the genomes, the stories, they all converge, revealing a society where ritual was not just memory, but living action, and where myth ran as deep as blood. Drought struck the Maya heartland around 820 AD, leaving its imprint in the chemistry of cave stalagmites and ancient lake beds. Oxygen isotope spikes from Lake Chichimila and Cave Mall point to years of parched skies and shrinking forests. Archaeologists once linked these climate records to a sweeping disappearance, but the DNA tells a different story. Genome-wide scans from dozens of sites reveal that even as rainfall faltered, the core Maya ancestry, over 80% of the genetic makeup, remained steady across the region. No new influx of outsiders can be detected in this window. Runs of homozygosity, a measure of population stability, show no sudden bottleneck. The ancient genomes and the climate proxies, side by side, reveal a population that endured environmental crisis not by vanishing, but by holding fast to its roots. The Maya did not dissolve in the drought. Their bloodlines persisted, adapting to the world as it changed around them. Tikal's skyline faded after 820 AD, its plazas falling silent as rulers lost their grip and stonework slowed to a crawl. Population estimates for this southern city-state plummeted from 80,000 at its height to less than half that by the end of the 9th century. Yet as Tikal's terraces emptied, the north began to pulse with new life. Chichen Itza, once a regional outpost, transformed into a powerhouse. Causeways lengthened, ball courts multiplied, and the Temple of the Warriors rose above the Yucatan Plain. Archaeological surveys trace this surge. Settlement density at Chichen Itza peaked just as Tikal's waned, with as many as 70,000 people gathering around its ceremonial core. Ceramic styles and inscriptions spread outward from the north, while the last stelae at Tikal fell silent. These patterns, a decline in one city and expansion in another, draw a map of shifting power, not of disappearance. The Maya world reorganized, adapting to drought and turmoil by forging new alliances and moving centers of authority. The stones tell a story of resilience, not collapse. Today, over 7 million Maya speak their ancestral languages, a living answer to centuries of erasure. As science restores voices long misrepresented, the real story persists in every family, ceremony, and word. History didn't vanish here. It adapts, resists, and endures. Justice begins when we finally recognize that.